All right, looks like we're live.
Are we live? Are we live? Let's just see. All right. Oh, I see. All right. All right. Yeah, we are
All right, looks like
live.
we're live.
Here we go. Well, first of all, welcome. Last week we had co-champion A. Now we have co-champion B. It's week 3. So we had to make sure we gave each of you your due time. We are uh, politically unbiased, so everybody gets equal a lot of time here on the
That's
podcast.
right.
So you don't need much introduction, but tell everybody what's going on and what you've been
Yeah,
up to and
always
what a life
always
update.
glad to be back here on the podcast discussing news items. Got out of divisional play, it looks like, and now
We're
we
about
are
to.
ready to get into interdivisional play and the rest of the season. So that'll be fun to see who's really going to be able to stand the test of time here. It looks like
Yeah.
there's a lot of exciting stuff that's all ready to happen.
Look, I'll tell you who's ready to stand the test of time, and that's the Kelsey Swift public relationship, or now
That's
public
right.
relationship that will stand the test of time. What I heard a couple of good puns or jokes about it. Said, she must really be into him since she's going to watch the Bears and the Jets back to back weeks. She's really got to be down with this. And then another I heard was, Travis Kelce's riding pretty high because he knows he could beat up every one of her exes. So he's not afraid of none of these, I don't know, Jonas Brother wannabes that she's been with in the past. God, quite what, the NFL. I don't, what a weekend.
What a weekend is right.
What NFL tries to sneak in the Usher Super Bowl announcement, immediately overshadowed by Taylor Swift attends a football game. 5 bazillion people now want to know what football is, and yeah, that's been a fun couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, still can't believe she's going to be going to the Jets game. And I mean, she sold out all those concerts at MetLife, so she's intimately familiar with the venue. But oh man, there are some things that you don't want to do. Who knows? Maybe she could play quarterback. I mean, 5'11", that's not bad height.
Is that what is she really 5'11"?
I think she's listed at 5'11".
Oh, these are
So
listed statistics. So okay.
yeah,
All right. Well, either way, we've got some photos dropped of them sort of canoodling in a bar or suite or something post game. So yeah, I mean, kudos. That's
it's
obviously the
whatever.
biggest news.
It's what everyone wants to know.
Yeah. How, but and to somewhat turn it to the league ever so slightly. We have the rumors within the league are that Paul is in win now mode despite averaging a whopping 80.95 points through the first 3 weeks. So gut reaction. What do you think about Paul in win now mode? He does have a win on the season to his credit. But he is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking at the ranks here. He is in the Wisey's division, and Joe is 3-0, and it's a convincing 3-0. But the problem is he's sort of a walking wounded because now Joe's lost Williams. Joe obviously lost Chubb. Um, Aaron Jones might be coming back, might not be. Apparently, Kareem Hunt's questionable now. So, you keep on getting 45-point games from Mostert and 25-point games from Hurts. You're going to win more games than you lose. But if you go back and look at Paul's team, Paul has a path, even though he's averaging 80 points a game, to at least do something, right? So Montgomery's out, so Gibbs should be winning more of that work. Devon Achane, he no longer wants to be going by A-Chain, getting
Hey,
rid of
that's
all of the
better than
great,
Jammer Gibbs. Okay.
getting
You
rid
know,
of all of the take the A chain puns. I mean, Mark Andrews, look, he's got enough to be interesting. And in that division, interesting gets you into the playoffs.
uh, probably. Here's the thing. Joe doesn't have any depth. It's
Right.
a very thin squad. He can't really afford any more big injuries. For Paul, he needs Cooper Cup to come back and be healthy because he has depth, but it's not, none of the depth jumps out at you as going, wow, that's really going to be huge. Now, maybe Jalen Warren comes on, maybe JSN comes on. But for Paul, yeah, there's more opportunity. I'm with you, but it's a lot of Joe Burrow's got to get healthy and play better.
Burrow's really got to get healthy.
Right. Cup's
That's
got to
the
get
main
healthy.
thing.
He's got to keep Garrett Wilson healthy when we know Zach Wilson's going to throw some kind of concussion duck, at
Right.
some point. He's relying on 2 rookies at running back, which they are very talented. I have no problem with admitting that. But I want Paul to be in win now mode. I think it's worthwhile. It's more fun for the league when we've got Paul trying to wheel and deal.
Yep.
We're 3 weeks into the season, and he's losing by an average of 43 points a week. So
yeah.
Now I know that's one of those is the Joe giant win, right?
Right.
Joe did win by 100 points, but
I mean, you would have lost by, I mean, 12 point, ranked at 12, ranked 6, sneaks out the win over Emmanuel, ranked 12th. I mean, things are going to have to turn around. Is it going to turn around against you?
I mean, look, I'm not saying I got a killer squad, but it better turn around against me. I'm certainly projected to outscore him. I like my chances. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are going to be in a shootout.
Yep.
Good weather in Buffalo. That should be a high scoring game. I think Ridley's going to eventually catch one of these touchdown passes. He can't drop them all. Laporta's nice little steal. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance certainly that Paul can beat me. I'll willingly admit that, but there's a lot more upside on my team, at least this week. Matchups and everything else is what it is. But yeah, I mean, look, it's early in the season. I would rather see teams be in win now mode or wait and see mode than willing to kind of punt. That's just kind of
it's too early to punt. Everyone still has a path to get
except for Wagner. Except for Wagner.
Playoffs.
We can put the fork in him, he's struggling.
0-3, getting bullied off that Tank Dell intuition. As we all knew, Tank Dell would have consecutive 25-point games. These are all things that we knew.
Hey, look, I got Tank Dell in another league. He started last week. I did lose though, and he's going to start this week as well. So I'm willing to ride. And I'm riding the Tank Dell train in DFS. That is very profitable.
Absolutely.
But yeah, look, it's early in the fantasy season. A lot of things can happen. A lot can change. We'll see. But I did hear that, little birdie did tell me that Paul is in quote unquote win now mode. So I like it. Let's push the chips to the middle.
So if he's in win now mode, what is he going to need to do to improve his team? Because, if he's in win now mode, he needs better running backs.
Yeah, but everybody needs better running backs.
Certain people on this podcast have 5 running backs that are all quality starts, and you can only start 3 of them. So,
look, I don't disagree. I think that there are certainly, let's first of all, 5 quality starts. Alexander Madison is not a quality start, and I don't know that Kyron Williams is a quality start.
Williams got all the work.
Okay, sure, but
I mean, if Matthew Stafford looked awful in that game, getting passes off, there were at least, they threw at Williams 7 times, and at least 3 of them were just so wild. And then there was also the like 30 or 40 yard pass that they had drawn up, and Stafford couldn't get the ball off before the knee hit the ground. I think there's enough from Williams that he's still in it at the very least as a flex.
Oh, I think he's definitely a flex. I'm not here to say that he doesn't have value. I think if you're Paul, what he has to do is he can't. It's too early to give up on Gibbs. Clearly, there's going to be.
Right.
I can't imagine Detroit doesn't find more ways to get him involved in the offense. Montgomery, healthy or not, he's too electric as a playmaker to just not give him the balls, particularly in space. Achane, I don't know. Wilson's going to come back. Mostert's the starter. That team is all about speed. Denver clearly just did not care, just completely quit on defense early in the game. It obviously is a crazy performance. I don't know what that looks like week to week. There's going to be boom and bust weeks, probably based on matchups and scheme. And Achane's a good back. He's a sturdy back, but he's a little bit smaller. So maybe he gets nicked up. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. So I agree. I think everyone in this league, or just about everyone in the league, will be looking for a running back upgrade unless they get lucky into some kind of bench player.
Right.
It's just too early to know what that looks like and how to evaluate that. There haven't really been too many great running backs to start the year other than, McCaffrey. Kenneth Walker's finding the end zone a lot, but he's very boom or bust because he's either 2 yards in a cloud of dust or it's a touchdown. There's really no in between, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking at the teams right now that are doing decently well at wide receiver, but could use a little more bolstering on the running back help. I think to think where Paul could start trying to think of making, player for player moves. Wagner seems like the obvious trade choice.
Yeah.
If you're starting Algier, but you have Devontae, Lockett, Dell, McLaurin's is technically a wide receiver one. Depends on how much you like Sam Howell or not.
You can't. Yeah,
but there's enough that if Paul's making a trade for something like an Achane for a Dell or an Achane for a Lockett, that could be a little bit of a win-win there too. And I think Drew also has some interesting choices as well.
I think so. Pittman's definitely been a revelation for Drew that I was not expecting. But, I think that's great. I think Waddle's an interesting candidate. He's obviously hurt. So, Judy's always nicked up. So with Drew, it's very much a situation where you look at him on paper and you go, this team should have a win. This should be a better team. This is not a bad team. And it's one of those that maybe it just never comes together. Maybe it just takes a while. I don't know. But that's just one of those situations. I think, Drew's an interesting team to watch for sure. One of the things, though, you mentioned Wagner, and this is probably lost on people. Most people probably think Tank Dell was undrafted or went really late. He was taken in the 9th round.
So, people who were not at the draft might have thought of that.
Right.
People who were at the draft all sort of just stood around, had to go to the list and find out that it was it Nicholas Dell is his first name?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So we had to find the real name.
But it wasn't a bad pick. It was definitely more than a few rounds earlier than you would have value wise at the draft. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. You go, oh my God, look at what he's done. Let's see what 2 games does not make a season. I haven't had any time to really try to sit down and really figure out what potential trade opportunities might even be out there. But it's early, right? I mean, no one's really. But it's so interesting because you mentioned Drew. And this is, if we look at the league, right, Drew's averaging, it's unsustainable for Richmond to average 140 points a week, Richmond 134. But, Drew is fourth in his division at 96 points, but that is better than four other teams. So it's not as if
Yeah,
he's not competitive. He's just in a division with a lot of good teams who are off to hot starts. And he
that's
very well
right.
back up a couple of wins here, and he's 3-3, and it looks very different. We've
Hmm.
never seen that where it's very hard for one division to get all the wild card spots. It is possible. They'd all have to basically run the table out of division play,
Right.
which can happen. So I'm curious to see what, because I think Drew's got a solid team. It's just you got to get the wins, and obviously inside to, if the other teams that you have to play twice are just slightly better, that's how it goes.
That's tough. Yeah.
It's
So I
very tough.
think since we've moved to the three division format, so that's when the NFL moved to that week 18.
Yep.
We've had 1 year where there have been uh, three teams from the same division to make the playoffs, and that was last year.
Yeah,
You know,
and I think that's more realistic.
usually it does come out that it is two from each. So how do you get to three and then four from here? I mean, pick up wins.
You got to pick up wins. You got to play to win the game.
That's right.
You know, just like Jameis used to say, we got to eat that dub. Got
That's
to eat that
right.
W. You know, just like some crab legs
100%. That's
from
right.
Publix without paying.
Not like Russell Wilson and his you can eat the football.
Hey, you can do whatever you want. I think that's Russell Wilson. I tell you what, he's cooking without fire. He's cooking over ice. That is pretty brutal. But yeah, I mean, we've talked a little bit about the league. I don't know if there's other league topics you want to hit. I know Josh Palmer, the big waiver acquisition, Tate, $38 seems about right.
Yeah.
Given his track record, potential for Quentin Johnson to come on over the course of the season, and of course, Palmer, I think, is a free agent at the end of the year as well. So it's not a bad waiver, a little pricey, but
Yeah, this week was not necessarily the biggest waiver week because we've all kept we had Dell, we had HN, Quentin Johnson was there, so you really were only with Jerome Ford. That's
yeah, it was interesting. I guess Tate spent more than 3 times the next highest bid.
yeah,
I thought it's hard to know what to. It somewhat depends on your roster. How
yeah,
much you feel like you need that player. Um, for Tate's, I can understand it just because, look, he's got Kyle Pitts. That's a bust. That's just going to be a bust.
Kyle Pitts in London. It's the only place where he's done well. Every London game that Kyle Pitts has been to, all one of them, he had 120 yards and a
Hey,
touchdown.
I mean,
Which
maybe he'll do it. Maybe look, he'll be playing in Andy's room. Okay.
that's right.
Hope everybody watches the alternate broadcast at 9:30 on the East Coast. I'm curious to see how they do this. We got got Mr. Potato Head and T-Rex commenting. I don't know. I'd be curious if maybe when there's a fumble, the pig, he gets shaken up and the coins
Yeah,
pop
lose all
up.
the coins.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Maybe
All the Green Army men come and take him out to the medical tent if there's an
yeah.
injury.
Or they're like special teams, they're parachuting in. I don't know.
That's right.
Who knows, right? I'm sure it's just like the slime stuff. Who knows what they've got cooked up? So, yeah, it should be certainly interesting on all those fronts. Yeah, like I said, for Tate's, this isn't, again, these aren't necessarily. I don't think there's a lot of separation between most of these teams. And I know I said it at the draft. Most teams I feel like are relatively even and are relatively competitive week to week. Kirshner's slightly an exception. Joe's off to a ridiculous start, but outside of those sort of outliers, most of the teams in the league are on paper relatively equal. There's not
Yeah,
big differences. And so week to week, there probably will be a lot of variability. And it also makes 1 or 2 injuries a big deal. Tate's loses
that's right.
DeAndre Hopkins early. Godwin's not been good with Baker, which I don't really get. He would think Godwin would be good with Baker in the slot. Kamara's coming back. We don't know what that looks like.
Kamara coming back is going to be a big one.
That's a big question mark because that could work really, really well, or meh. Derek Carr's hurt. He's week to week. I don't know. But
yeah, it could take him a little time to get back up to game speed too.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. There's all sorts of unknowns. It's hard to assess exactly where this roster might stand in a few weeks, but I get it. You kind of want Josh Palmer for the depth, especially at receiver, which is not a great position on this team right now.
Right.
I understand. I think it's fair. Like I said, it's hard to know, right? You have to assess with waivers. It's different when like Chubb goes down and there's Ford has the potential to be a top 12,
right.
15 running back. Obviously, they went and signed Hunt, and there's a lot of, you never know. But
exactly,
in theory, there's a guy you go, okay, all the money, it's different when we're talking like the number 2 or 3 receiver. Do I need a receiver? Do I not? What do I think is really a good value? But makes it part of the strategy, right?
Absolutely. You can't take it with you.
Yeah.
So you got to decide when's the time to cash in. I mean, for me, I was like, look, it's with Ford last week. He's a starting running back. He'll have a chance to turn the role. And, the thing with handcuffs is they're great if they hit, but if they don't hit, then you're sort of just like toting around, this roster spot that you can use for something else. So that's why I sort of stuck away from the handcuffs this year. And let's see if that actually,
works out,
burns me in the end. But then again, Joe just picked up Rico Dowdle. Could be talking about sending over Tony Pollard. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard, right? Because if you need to have handcuffs in some situations because maybe a player's injury prone,
right?
That the backup is good enough to be a top 10 player at that position if the starter's out for any extended time. The problem is you're right. You then forego potentially more startable players. And it's a tricky situation because and then I went all in on like rookie running back handcuffs. I was like, you know what? I just need none of them to hit, and I might have something. And maybe none of them hit. But early returns are Tajay Spears is on the field quite a bit.
Yep.
So that's promising. Rashawn Johnson's getting work. The Bears suck, so maybe they just say screw it and they give him the ball. It's a risk worth taking when you know that. Look, you're not spending a lot to get those, but at the same time, you're right. I'm not starting those players out of the blue. I've got to feel like it's a good matchup, or maybe there's an injury. Like you're not just doing it because you can. You need some information or some reason to do that. It's all part of strategy, right? It's roster building, construction. It's the same thing, what you see in the actual NFL. Teams that go all in on having a ton of high-priced players and then really weak depth, and then the teams that want to stay on the affordable contracts and have a lot of depth spread across the roster. It's really, that's what it comes down to. And there's not a right or wrong. It's more a circumstance. Does it work? Does it not? Injury luck, that type of thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But okay. That's a lot of league talk. People don't come here for the league talk.
That's right.
Right. They want to know. I want to hear about this alligator in Philly. Is this the new baseball curse?
I feel like Philly's gone on a bit of a hot run in sports, but you're only as good as you were until it all comes crashing down. Sometimes, what's that quote? I wish someone would tell me when the best times were so I'd remember them. I mean, Philly's been having a lot of the best times.
I don't know.
They turned it, but much like the Wrigley Field turned away the old Billy Goat, the Philadelphia Phillies turning away our service alligator. might
No,
be the downslide for Philadelphia sports.
I want to know what kind of service the alligator provides, right? Like
That's right. You are
this is
legally allowed to ask what the service being
right. Is
provided
this
is.
like an emotional support alligator? I mean, it's pretty big. This is not, as someone who lives near alligators, this isn't like some tiny one that you hold in your hands at the alligator farm. This is a good,
No,
you know, I guess with that tail, this might be 6 or 7 feet. Um, that's a solid adult, that's a full grown, that's an adult
it's a big
alligator,
gator. Yeah.
a good sized gator. It's certainly, going to frighten the kids. So what's the service here? That's what that's what I want to know if I were at the gate. Before I see the paperwork, what's the purported service this alligator's doing? I don't think I don't think the guy's blind and it's helping him, make his way through the streets. It's probably not a
It's
drug
not like blood
alligator, right?
or blood sugar or
Blood sugar, right?
things of that
Exactly.
glucose, things of
Right,
that
right.
nature.
It's like a heart attack, alligator. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the service here is, but if you're a Philly fan, look, if you're a person who has a pet alligator, period, of any size, that's not really something you just take to the
No,
ball, right? Obviously, it's a stunt for Twitter or whatever. I get it. I get it.
right.
We were at a carnival. Well, carnival's a loose term. We were at some kind of
Some sort of amusement.
thingy, going on
That's
with the
right.
big last weekend, and there was like a petting zoo. I'll use quotes because it was pretty loosely
Right.
petting zoo. What they have there had a capybara that you could pet, an armadillo. I think there was a baby alligator, and then there was like a cow, like a full size cow, and a pen that was about 3 by 3, and then a bunch of goats and a turkey and another. I'm
I
going.
don't think this is up to whatever regulation
Yeah,
needs to
first
be
of
up
all,
to.
number one, I saw the gentleman running this, and I had some very, I had some concerns about the legality and the treatment of these animals. And then I looked at the Ferris wheel that was also at this carnival that had clearly been put up like the day before,
Oh,
and it was
that's right.
moving about 6 times faster than any Ferris wheel I've ever seen. And yeah, we opted to not
Not
take
ride the
the
rides.
14-month-old child on any of the carnival rides.
No, you
We
can't do
weren't
that.
we weren't real confident on the spinny whirl things and the Ferris wheel moving about 12 miles an hour. I was like,
Yeah, nothing
oh,
that has you leave the ground for an
yeah,
extended
no.
period of
I'm
time.
like, we're good. We'll stay here with our feet on Mother Earth. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's where this alligator came from. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, look, we'll stick with baseball. I don't know if you saw the Mets. Tropical storm Ophelia is coming. Everyone knows for a week. The Mets can't get the tarp on the field.
They didn't put the tarp on the field.
It cost the Marlins the first game of the series, and the Marlins
I
had to
saw
play a
that.
doubleheader today when the Marlins are in the wild card hunt. What? I mean, well,
The amount of times that I've just been to a game, uh, and it's like we all know you're going to have to put the tarp on the field. Why are you starting? Why are you starting this game for an inning and a half, and then we're going to have to deal with this delay for 3 hours and burn the pitchers and do all that? There are probably so many intricacies to baseball management
mhm,
that
mhm.
they will tell you. And it's like, well, we couldn't do it because of this, this, and this. And we have to get it started because of this. Or it's like, come on. We all knew, like, just put the tarp on the field. I
Yep.
don't know why the tarp wasn't on the field.
I, it's inexcusable when this isn't like. I'm sorry. I'm watching Chris Christie call the former
That's
president
right.
Donald Duck. So anyway, that's also a highlight of this evening. But the storm is coming. I mean, this is widely reported. There's going to be a bunch of rainfall, the whole East Coast.
Yeah,
The team's not in town. Get the tarp on the field.
right.
What?
I mean, just go look at what your double A affiliate was doing, or it might be single A. I don't know what league they were in, but the Cyclones were hosting one bite festival out in the rain at the Cyclones field, and people were in ponchos and eating their pizza, but they tarped up the field there. Just look across the borough.
Yeah. Look, I think it's a great encapsulation of the season for the Mets, right?
Yeah,
we meant to do it. We meant to do the right thing.
we bet. Yeah, we
Better,
had some plans. Didn't
it's like
work out.
it's like the Chargers. They just, at the end of the day, they're just going to Charger. The Mets
Yep,
just being the Mets. That's just how it goes.
that's right. Look, they're going to be in on every free agent. They're number one for Soto. They're number one for Otani. They're going to be in the mix, and they're always going to be cited as that mystery team. But you get to a certain point, and it's like, look, the results are either there or they're not there. And I think that sort of is the same thing for all of New York sports. You can talk about your process and whether that is we're going to be patient with things, or we're going to be targeting certain players that have certain intangibles, or we're going to be, emphasizing these types of spin rates and exit velocities. And that's why we're trading and acquiring certain players. At a certain point, you are what your record says you are. And I think that's something with the Mets are going to have to deal with. It's going to be something that the Yankees are going to have to deal with. It's going to be something that the Jets are going to have to deal with this offseason. It's going to be something that the Giants are going to have to deal with when they inevitably finish 6-11, 7-10. They're just going to, best laid plans. Season doesn't work out. You got to understand why that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously been a massive disappointment of a year, and yeah, I mean, that's how it is. I don't know. It's like I said, I think this whole thing is just very enigmatic of the entire season. You just they basically can't get out of their own way. They can't do the right thing. They can't do the obvious thing. They're too late. Just trying to dry the field for 3 hours right after everyone's at the ballpark and stretched and loosening up. And I mean, it's ridiculous. I guess the only solace for the Marlins is the Braves walked off the Cubs in the bottom of the 10th. So Marlins are, still in it. I don't know. It's just, you see that kind of report, right, about the Mets, and, you just go, yeah, it would be the Mets,
It would be it would like be. There are certain things that, bad news has a way of finding you. That's kind of like what the Mets are.
Yeah, exactly. They're walking along with the dark cloud over their head, perpetually. The Mets, the Jets, that's just their plight.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know. And speaking of the Jets, though, segue this, Joe Burrow's getting calf injury advice from Aaron Rodgers, so we know Joe Burrow will no longer receive vaccinations. Will go on a darkness retreat in a couple of off seasons, and likely believes other wild conspiracy theories that are routinely debunked on the internet. So,
yeah, I'm excited for Joe Burrow to be taking the ivermectin. Taking my dog's HeartGuard pills. Those
hey, you know what? I mean, look, whatever it takes to get him through a training camp. I don't know. Maybe that's the answer.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes. I saw that. I went, oh, Joe, what is Aaron Rodgers going to tell you about recovering from a calf strain that the doctor can't? I mean,
that's right.
What's the purpose there? I don't know. I mean, what's the purpose of Joe Namath shitting on Zach Wilson when was even worse quarterback? But
I mean, the thing with Namath is he's by far and away the most important voice in the history of that organization. So even when he says something, your ears kind of take notice. And I don't know if you followed him on X or Twitter. I mean, I did when the service started. He's one of the more generally upbeat,
he's super positive.
Super positive cheerleaders.
That's the thing.
I went to the movie, and when I got out of Stop Making Sense, I turned on my phone. All I just see is on the For You tab is Joe Namath getting progressively madder and madder. Where it's this is horrible. He can't do anything right. It's like, oh man, Joe's upset.
Here's the thing, though.
Supposed to be in a bad game. Then he goes to the next day and doubles down. It's got to trade him away. Which you can't trade him away. No one's going to give you anything of value
Well,
for him.
well, I mean, you're
But
going to
it's
get
like
like a
we can't
conditional
you
seventh
can't
round.
start him, which you can't.
Yeah, but
You know,
here's the thing, right? I'm with Namath, and I mean Jack Wilson is terrible. I didn't understand why he was a first round pick. I didn't think he was in any
right?
respect. But I don't know that you then go after like the coaching staff. Clearly, the front office doesn't want to bring in someone. I don't know that like it's Robert Saleh's fault. Trevor Siemian, who they signed, is terrible. I mean, that's not really any better. They didn't re-sign Mike White in the offseason. They didn't go and get a real competent backup for Rodgers when they could have.
I
Zach
think it
Wilson,
needs to. Yeah, I think. I mean, I think there are a couple of things. I think the first thing is the one you mentioned. For all the work that Douglas did in Philadelphia and putting those teams together and being a good executive there, the fact is, you sort of like it's just been year after year with this quarterback issue. And when you're like, all right, we're going to get Aaron Rodgers, and then we're going to do all these things for Aaron Rodgers. But oh, by the way, Aaron Rodgers is also 39 and also didn't really looked like there was a lot of issues with him in Green Bay last year. And you don't have that like a contingency plan in case something goes wrong. Like that's on the GM, that's on the front office. But the other thing with Saleh is, and I understand that he can't go out after an interview or during a press conference and trash the quarterback. But again, it's that same old story that we saw last year where like very clearly they're not just being held back by the play of the quarterback, but they are actively losing games because of the quarterback because they can't throw the ball more than 5 yards downfield.
yeah, but
Like,
what if they end up with a top 5 pick? Like, this is the thing. If they end up, the Jets their defense is going, if the defense plays hard, they will be in almost every game. And then they're going to beat Josh Allen because they are Josh Allen's kryptonite, which makes no sense, but that's just how it goes. They'll be competitive, but they'll lose probably, they might go like 2-15. That's going to be good enough for like a top 5, certainly a top 10 pick, right? They're going to be in the first part of the draft. Yeah, they're not going to probably be the Bears and get Caleb Williams, but there's more than one good quarterback coming out of college. They have the chance, and this is the thing, and I don't know if this is now where they're trying to just sort of tank in a way. You brought in Aaron Rodgers. He eats up a huge amount of the cap, huge contract. You don't improve the offensive line. You go and sign Dwayne Brown, who's ancient, and then in that Monday night game, you're asking to cut block, which Dwayne Brown will tell you he doesn't like doing and doesn't feel good at. And then will tell you he hates cut blocks.
That was the first thing he said.
Right.
But then again, he hates cut blocks, but he also needed to have Nathaniel Hackett come in and scheme this up for him. Isn't
that interesting though? You're the OC, the play caller is your guy, and the first 2-3 pass plays are doing exactly what you don't like.
Right.
I don't understand the disconnect there, and I haven't heard that unpacked, but Hackett's not the offensive line coach, but he's certainly dictating protections from a scheme perspective. So that's a play call. That's a design cut block. That's all in the call. That's all in the play call.
Right.
Now, Rodgers isn't checking out of that. And I get it. You need to get the ball out quick. Like a cut block gives you extra time. I understand like the purpose of it. Rodgers just doesn't like it. I don't blame him. It creates potential for all sorts of weird scenarios with your feet, where you can get rolled up on and he doesn't like it. But like, let's talk about, Hackett got a head coaching job and now this gig because Rodgers essentially that's my guy. Before McCarthy left Green Bay, Hackett didn't call crap. Right. And LaFleur comes in and LaFleur he's the one calling everything. This isn't like Hackett was some genius play caller with Rodgers for a decade. Hackett is Rodgers' homeboy, and he's going to do what Rodgers wants, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's what's best or what's right or what works best with the personnel. It's just, this is what I think we should do. This is clearly Hackett can't call plays. Clearly he's not that great, but Rodgers covered so much up because he had Devontae Adams and they had a good running back, and Rodgers is a Hall of Famer.
Right.
I don't know that this is all like Zach Wilson is not good, but I don't think he's the only problem.
No.
And I don't even blame the head coach, because it's not as if it's not his final say on the OC or on the trade or on the offensive line issues. They wanted to draft a guy, right? And like, didn't New England trade with Pittsburgh so Pittsburgh could get ahead of them and take the guy they wanted? There's all sorts of things out there that happen.
I think at a certain point, I think the GM has to go. I think this season.
Oh yeah.
If you like, the GM has to go, and then you can bring in a new GM, and he can decide on the head coach. And the thing with the head coach is, let's even look back last year. Like, how long did it take for them to go to Mike White as the full-time starter last year? Because they were sticking with Zach Wilson until he made those comments after the Patriots game that lost him the gig.
Well,
right?
They had the Flacco experience too.
Right.
Right. So it was like
Flacco just didn't want to be there, which was the most bizarre thing I'd ever seen. Everyone was like, go to Flacco. He's good. He was good last year. He's a veteran presence. And like, he was checked out. He was like, I just wanted to cash a paycheck.
I think Flacco realized, so our star running back tore his knee. This offensive line can't protect. I'm 37 or whatever he was.
Right.
Why am I like, I'll take my paycheck, but like, I don't want to
put me in game action.
He's like, so as soon as he got a little nick, he's like, I'm out. And the team, to their credit, said like, okay, Joe, like, okay, whatever, go be a scout team quarterback. Like, we don't, but
right.
As a front office, as a GM, like, you have to understand and know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And now we're like compounding all these things, because now with the Rodgers contract, right? You don't have any cap space now. You don't have any cap space next year. Then Rodgers is gone. You're gonna have, but then at that point, you're gonna have to pay Garrett Wilson, and you're gonna need a quarterback.
Right.
That's why it's like, I legitimately think there are probably at least 5 quarterbacks in college that, maybe more, that are first round caliber, or certainly first.
Yeah, this is the big quarterback draft.
Not all will go into the draft. Like, Shadur Sanders could come back. I don't know that he should, but he may come back to college. But Caleb Williams, Drake May, Quinn Ewers, Michael Penix, Tyler Van Dyke, those 5 are all going to have first round grades. Whether or not they all go in the first round depends on health and everything. But you got 5 legitimate dudes who can throw. I don't know if there are 5 teams who need quarterbacks that high, but if you're the Jets, like, you kind of got to look ahead and go, I don't know that Saleh's the answer. Like, I don't know, you want to go draft a quarterback high with a defensive coach. Like, I understand there's a lot of different, there's things to think about there. But man, like, we're going to see him on Sunday Night Football, and the Chiefs are probably going to win like 24-11.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be particularly pretty or good, but their defense will make the Chiefs work for it. And the Jets will, like, maybe get a turnover, short field touchdown, and that's about it.
Right.
It's going to be, and that's how every game is going to go. Because clearly, Carson Wentz, they have no interest in that. Matt Ryan has no interest in them.
No.
They seem to want to try to make a deal for Kirk Cousins, who I would trade for on an expiring.
Right.
But it's the Jets, man. It's the Mets and the Jets,
That's right.
The Jets. They just keep finding, that perpetual ineptitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too bad, because this was the year where very much, like, people that are saying they're going to win a Super Bowl, I think, was a little overblown, but there was definite optimism. Like, this was this was our year. We're going to be back. It's going to be exciting again. We have the best quarterback we've ever had. Like, we've got a great young wide receiver. The defense is a championship caliber defense. And then you lose it after 4 plays. It's just like, oh, geez.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's that you can't anticipate any of that.
Right.
But there's lots of basically like micro decisions that
lead you there.
That lead you to be in a position where you're more susceptible to something happening. that's
Right.
going to be a negative and be that setback. And it's the job of the front office and the coaching staff to do everything it can to prevent ending up in that situation. You
That's
obviously
right.
can't predict it. Like, okay, you know, he's going to have the calf, basically just go out on him after 4 plays. You can't know that will happen,
No.
but you can know we have weaknesses. We need to address things. We need to schematically. Why aren't you leaving a tight end in the chip or a running back?
Right.
I mean, you don't have to. There are a million things you can do as a football coach, as a football team, to address lots of different things. And
Mhm.
you kind of like don't do them. And, that's what happens. It's unfortunate. Obviously, you don't want guys to get hurt, to miss the year, but,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's not like they're going to be in the Super Bowl and he's going to have a chance to come back,
No.
you know? So, I mean, look, it's 40 some odd $1 million lit on fire.
Yep.
Um,
That's sports.
that is sports, right? That is sports. I guess that's what it comes down to. Look, big sports day. Damian Lillard got traded, shocking everyone to the Bucks. We got the Ryder Cup this weekend. Any big stories you want to touch on? The floor is yours.
Yeah. I mean, preseason hockey has started. That's what all of the New York metropolitan area is looking forward to. The Rangers coming back. The Devils seem to be the hot team to beat in that division. That's the one sports story I am tracking. They also announced the game times for all of the Georgetown basketball games this year. So you get a couple of interesting scheduled pieces. Villanova, the home game is on a Friday night, which
Interesting.
certainly will be interesting. I think we had a Friday night game last year against Xavier, I want to say, and that's always a weird one where it's like, oh, it's Friday night and we're going to the game. But also the back half of the Georgetown schedule looks loaded. Like that's when they're going to be playing UConn. I think they're playing
Yeah.
St. John's twice in February and March at the end of the season. I think that St. John's game is going to be very, very interesting because I think by that point in time that the MSG won, St. John's will be probably on the right side of the bubble at an at-large bid, and Georgetown will probably be looking to pick up like one last quality win to keep them in the conversation going to the Big East tournament. But it'll certainly be. I'm excited to see what Cooley does. I think they've got a good foundation. It might be a little bit of a rebuild this year, and but, next year they've got, I think, the sixth best recruiting class in the nation so far. So
Yeah. I
more to
mean, we'll
come.
see. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, look, I think Cooley certainly seems to have been um, obviously the right hire, right? It's very early, but they certainly have. I mean, they are right now. You're right. They're the sixth rated class right now for 2020. I guess that's what the 2024 basketball class.
Yeah.
I bet you can't guess who's the number one ranked team though in that recruiting class right now.
Well, I know that it spells drug when you look at it. So I think it's
Okay.
Duke, Rutgers, Miami, Georgetown. They're two above. So I think it's number one St. John's.
No, St. John's is not in the top 15.
They're probably all portal.
Well,
Let's see.
yeah, I mean, this is next year's recruits, right? So,
Right.
actually, Miami, they did a rankings update. Miami has jumped Rutgers, but you're correct. There was a brief moment in time where it was Duke, Rutgers, Miami, Georgetown. It did spell drug. It is Missouri number one currently,
Dennis
followed by
Gates.
UNC. Missouri, though, this is the weird like NIL time we live in. Missouri legislature passed a law in the summer where if you are from Missouri and you agree and you attend an in-state school, aka Missouri, you can sign and start earning NIL revenue while while still in high school. Like if only if you agree to go to an in-state school. So, I mean, talk about an inducement to go to Missouri. So they've got a 5-star football player committed, and I'm sure.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting when you break that down and you understand the background. So they have, for example, now none of their recruits are from, well, they have one guy from Missouri committed. But regardless, it is obviously a massive kind of benefit, if you will.
Right.
But, you know, for Georgetown, you're right. Georgetown has a strong class currently committed. It's ranked 6 overall, number 1 in the Big East. It's got a power forward, a center, and it's got a shooting guard committed. Particularly, I don't know how much you follow kind of the AAU type scene. The center, Sorber, had a really, really strong summer in some
That's
of the
what I heard.
EYBL, Nike stuff. Moretti is apparently a really tenacious guard, loves to, you know, kind of be a strong defender on the perimeter. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of potential here. We'll see. I was looking at the schedule. Did you notice that all the road games are like, are like different? They're not bolded, right? And they're different
Right.
colors, except for like Villanova. There's like 1 or 2 toward the end that they like messed up the copy. Let's see if I can find it where it is.
Would not be Georgetown if there wasn't some minor technical error that we could all, point and laugh at, like saying that we beat American in the graphic when we lost to them,
Yeah,
minor things like that, like getting the score right,
Yeah, it was pretty. I saw it and I was like, wait, don't we play at Nova? I don't know what the Georgetown basketball Twitter handle is, but
yeah, they've gotten better, but they've still got some old McDonough left in them.
yeah, let me see. Maybe they kept it up here. Yeah. Oh, God, this is great. Let's
see.
So if you go down the third and the second to last road games are man and not in the lighter blue font.
And not in the tidal blue, as they call it.
Yeah, I just, I mean, you would think, right? You would think, DePaul and
That's
Villanova,
right.
you think that like whatever sophomore they have checking this, clearly, so
you would be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, look, at least there's we've got a nice little wire meme here where, we back up, right?
The experience of a Saturday night home game continues to be a rarity. Yeah, because they're the 5th priority at that arena.
Yeah, they're never going to get that.
They've gotten a Saturday night home game, I believe, once in the past, 15 years. Like I went to one Rutgers game that was on a Saturday night. It was very weird.
Well, the other thing is most people aren't watching college basketball on a Saturday night.
No.
Like, I know that ESPN will do like a primetime game, but it's not like the ratings are that great. Everybody goes out, right? They're on a date, whether at a movie or whatever. You have NBA, NHL, NFL, college, got all these other things happening.
Right.
What do you think in February people are watching?
No one's watching no one's watching a college basketball game at 7:00 on a Saturday night in February. They're just not.
Right. The only month where you might have a shot at viewership is February, but you have to compete on a Saturday night with like NBA All-Star skills, NHL All-Star skills. Those are on different weekends, right? And then you've got Super Bowl stuff on a Sunday, right? You got Super Bowl, NFL honors or whatever. You've got you're talking like 1 weekend, 2 weekends, the whole year. Right. Of those Saturdays where you're still competing then with regular season hockey, NBA. I mean, I get it. A Friday night makes more sense if you can get a Friday night game every once in a while. I can understand the appeal, but Saturday night is not a priority. And you're right, for that arena, they'd rather have a Wizards or a Caps or a
concert.
Right. Those 3 things are much higher priority, or Disney on Ice for that matter. I mean,
right.
Globetrotters,
right? Anything.
Yeah, anything that's going to sell more than about 6,000 tickets, because
that's right. That's where
We'll
we
see.
are.
We'll see. Yeah. So like I said, I noticed the mistake on the copy and I went, we're still living.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
It's a long road. It's a
You
long
know,
road to getting the schedule right.
I mean, hey, I don't know. Maybe the dates and times are wrong. I have no idea. Nobody, you know, I don't get CBS Sports Network, so there'll be a couple I can't watch.
Well, a shame you won't see the road to Paul game.
You know, I'm real disappointed. I'll be honest. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Well, you know, it's been a pleasure.
Always
As
been a pleasure.
always.
Always fun.
Yeah.
Excited for the rest of the week. Who do you have to win on the Thursday night game? Any best bets?
Ooh, is it at Detroit or at Green Bay? I have not really looked. I know it's Packers Lions, but I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
on
that.
that.
It's at Green Bay.
It is at Green Bay. The current line, Caesar Sportsbook current odds: Detroit -1.5 at Green Bay, over under 46. Well, I don't know why. Green Bay's a home dog.
Yeah.
Give me the Packers. I mean that's a I mean steam that one. That
Yep.
that smells fishy. Lions
Yeah.
favored on the road in Lambeau. I'm not saying the Packers look good over the weekend, but last time Detroit was in Lambeau, big upset, kept the Packers out of the playoffs. Packers are something to prove. Yeah, I would take Green Bay. I don't trust Jared Goff outside of a dome.
Yeah.
I don't.
Golf
It's
on
like,
the road's not that great.
Goff on the road is bad. Short week. Maybe Christian Watson plays. Jordan Love is legit. He can play. He seems to be at least a competent starter. 46. I don't know. That feels like pretty good number there. I probably wouldn't play that. I would pick the Packers to cover personally. I don't know if I'm going to bet it, but
Be interesting to see. Yeah, we'll keep
I
that
know.
in mind. We'll have to see what happens looking it over Friday morning.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to lay too many bets here until Hard Rock goes live in Florida. I'm just sitting on the edge waiting for the Supreme
Just
Court to
waiting,
deny
waiting.
certification. Let's go. Let's go.
To get ready.
That is like the most ridiculous drawn out. Now they're like suing in state court, petitioning for the state Supreme Court to like rule that the Florida law is unconstitutional, but the Florida Supreme Court is like in DeSantis's back pocket. So there's no chance in hell they're going to do that. Like it's unfortunate. There'll be a single entity, it'll be a monopoly in the state, but that's how it is. So that's what's going to
Can't
be.
be worse than Gambit.
Yeah. I don't know. When's ESPN going to roll out its ESPN bet? What's that? Probably next year?
We'll see. Yeah, I think
we'll
next
see.
year.
Exactly. Oh, well. And with
All
that,
right.
to all a merry good night. So we'll see you.
Thank you.